Welcome to ASR's IS Institute. This is our website asr.com. We upload current affairs here daily. And for the month of June, presently in this video, we're looking at the monthly compilation too. So we upload monthly compilations too up here. So this is the full news download which you can do here. So this is a PDF freely available. You can just download it. And we'll discuss this from prelims perspective specifically, because for prelims news is important at least from June 2016. Even before that is beneficial, but at least this is the latest you can start with. So starting first with culture, the first news item: effort to make Sabrimala global. So Sabrimala, this is in Periyar Tiger Reserve in Kerala. So it is a sacred grove in the buffer zone of this Periyar Tiger Reserve. So you should know Sabrimala. Here the temple. The administrative body is Travancore Devosam Board. So this, from prelims perspective, at least you should know where is this located. They ask you matching the pairs or match the following with important temples and the state. Also important temples and where in which tiger reserve they are located or near which they can ask such questions too. So you should know about this. From that perspective, you can see here it is Periyar Tiger Reserve lies here, Sabrimala. So it's in the buffer zone. So it's an ancient temple of Ayyappan. In 1991, this has also been in news because Kerala High Court restricted entry of women above the age of 10 and below the age of 50 from offering worship at Sabrimala Shrine during any period of the year. So this is presently under review by the Supreme Court. So women entry should be allowed. So from that perspective also it has been in news. So environment, social and culture, from all three perspectives you should know about Sabrimala. So located at Periyar Tiger Reserve Buffer Zone in Western Ghats, Kerala. Next news item is religious tourism soars in Telangana. So again from culture perspective you should know about Godavari Pushkaram. This is a festival which is held once in 12 years along the banks of river Godavari. So a dip in Godavari is taken. This was celebrated in Telangana presently. So Telangana is also known for its Buddhist site, Nagarjuna Sagar. So this is associated with Nagarjuna, the Buddhist philosopher who spread teachings of Gautam Buddha here in the south. And Krishna Pushkaram was also there in 2016. So Krishna Godavari rivers you can see there pass through here. So Telangana, the latest state, 29th state of India, capital is Hyderabad, which will be shared between the two, Andhra and Telangana, for the next 10 years. While Andhra Pradesh is building its new capital at Amravati. So this is the Godavari river, and down here is the Krishna river here. Then the next news item is Goa begins preparation to celebrate Saujao festival. So this is a carnival-like festival celebrated in Goa every year in the monsoon. So here the people wear here fruit and flower-laden wreaths called kopal on their heads. They have floats the way we see in carnivals. So they splash into wells overflowing with rainwater, and there are gifts which are kept at the bottom of the wells for the youths who get them. So Saujao festival again from culture perspective in Goa. Then it's related to Christianity. Then reflecting the charm of Adakaputhur mirror. So this is a mirror which was a metal mirror. So a metal which is crafted, the blacksmiths here crafted it in such a way that it acts as a mirror. So such a metal mirror has now been replicated. This is called Aranmula Metal River. So this is presently on display in Thiruvananthapuram. So these are the southern states here where this technique is known. So ancient cultural technique. So these are the metal mirrors. So even if the name comes up, Aranmula or Adakaputhur Kannadi, so what are they? They are metal mirrors. You should know that. Then the next section is geography. So the first news here is rubber sector in for a new crisis. So this is regarding the import tariff on rubber products being brought down in lieu of India-Malaysia Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement. So Malaysia is also a rubber producing country, and when import of rubber products from here come in at lower tariffs as such, then in the local or domestic rubber manufacturers would suffer. So that is being highlighted in this article. Then next is India sets sight on gold in ocean. So this is regarding the contract which India has to sign with International Seabed Authority. This has already been signed in September 2016 now. So International Seabed Authority is the organization under UN clause which was established under UN Convention on Law of the Sea. and means at this conference, and it is a United Nations organization. It looks into seabed mining. So mining rights and exploration rights for seabed region is provided. International seabed region is provided by this organization. So this India's contract with ISA, the first such permission was granted to India in 2002, but that was only to explore the ocean regions. So in the Indian Ocean region, so explore and prospect for precious metals. So these precious metals are available in the seabed in the form of polymetallic sulfides. So mining of polymetallic sulfides is sought for, and these polymetallic sulfides contain number of important metals like iron, copper, zinc, even precious metals like silver, gold, and platinum. So these polymetallic sulfides are precipitates of hot fluids which come from the hot magma from the oceanic crust, which comes out from the oceanic crust. So these mining is sought now, right? Then a technical challenge will of course be there. This is the specialized drills and extraction technology which is required to extract these minerals. So that is of course there, the technical challenge. You can see the polymetallic sulfides locations in various regions. So here in the Indian Ocean region, here also it's available. You can see South China Sea, in the mid-Atlantic ridge here near the coast. So this East Pacific ridge here, there are these polymetallic sulfides present. US coast. Then the next section is polity. The first article is citizens have a right to safe water, says draft legislation. So these are draft bills prepared by the government, National Water Framework Bill, and there's a model bill too. A model bill is generally there for the states to adopt. So this model bill is provided by the center. States have to make similar provisions in the bills which they pass. So model bill for conservation, protection, regulation and management of groundwater. So these bills have been, draft bills have been prepared by the central government. They aim to decentralize water management, means they are giving more power to panchayats and gram sabhas to decide how water can best be used. So they are doing away with the British common law concept too, that those who own the land also can extract unlimited groundwater from it. So this will no longer be there. So water use should be regulated. Fines would also be imposed against perpetrators who waste water. Plus incentives would also be there for those who cultivate less water intensive crops. So these are the provisions under it. Groundwater security boards would be established. Groundwater protection zones would be declared. So this is the draft bill presently. Once it passes, then it comes into effect. Passed in the parliament. The next is Center up on collision course over Jan Lokpal bill. So a Jan Lokpal bill has been passed by the Delhi government, Arvind Kejriwal government, and it has been sent to the central government, because in union territories, governors, and in states also actually, governors have the power. They can reserve the bill for the center. And in union territories, of course, there are more powers with the governor. So here the lieutenant governor sent the bill to the center, and Ministry of Home Affairs has decided that this Jan Lokpal bill of Delhi government cannot be passed in its present form. The reason they are giving is that it was not provided to it before being passed. So it has said that such bills should be required to be passed by the, approved by the center first and then passed by the Delhi government. So here the Delhi government is pointing out that the Article 239 AA of the Constitution was amended in 2014. So this curtailed the powers of Delhi government's anti-corruption board. So this to probe charges against central staff. So this is also bill, Jan Lokpal bill is against corruption, but this will not be passed now. So this bill actually provided for confiscating and attaching assets of government and private officials who are involved in corruption. So it has provisions to protect whistleblowers too, but then government has refused to pass it now, central government. The next is center's new bill to give more powers to major seaports. So this is also presently a bill which will become Central Port Authorities Act of 2016. So this has been proposed by Shipping Ministry. So once passed, it will be allowing major seaports to lease land. The leasing of land can be done for port related activities for 40 years and for non-port related activities for 20 years. So this bill will then replace the old act, which is Major Port Trusts Act of 1963. So this, then the ports can function as corporate entities. Already corporatization of port has taken place. This is Kamraj Port Limited, which has been established. This is the Ennore Port, which has been renamed so. So that is there already. Corporatization is beginning. So even public-private partnership is endorsed now, and steps are being taken for corporatization. So these are the major ports you can see in the country. The blue boxes are showing the major seaports here. You can see on the east and the west coast. So this is Ennore, which has become Kamraj Private Limited, Kamraj Port Limited. The next is bill nixed due to wrong definition of Manipuri. So this is a bill which has come to the president, and the president has rejected it. This is a bill which has been passed by the Manipur Assembly in 2015. It's Protection of Manipuri People's Bill. So this bill has been rejected because the definition of Manipuri under it is wrong, because many people whose names are not there are excluded. So these are the people definition of Manipuri, taking into consideration the census of 1951. So this will result in many tribes, at least half the tribes in the state would become stateless. So this is because at that time in this census they were not covered. So it says that those whose names are there in National Register of Citizens 1951, Census Report 1951 and Village Directory of 1951, and their descendants who have contributed to the collective social, cultural and economic life of Manipur will be called Manipuri. So this is the definition of Manipuri under this bill. So that's why this is flawed, because that census of 1951 did not cover entire state of Manipur, because infrastructure at that time was not enough. So many tribals were left out. So half the tribes would be declared stateless if passed. That's why this has been rejected. So that is there. Manipur, you should know, was merged with India in 1949. Before the merger, entry into the state was regulated by permit system. So with if you have a permit, you can enter into the state. So that was there. So this bill, again, another controversy is that this bill was passed as a money bill. Protection of Manipuri People's Bill. So if it is passed as a money bill, then in Manipur also it need not go to the Hill Area Committee for consultation. So this comprises of the tribals. So it was not sent to Hill Area Committee for consultation because it was passed as a money bill. So that controversy is also there. But anyway, President has rejected it. So it will not be passed and it will not be put into effect. Next is states get 3 months to implement Food Security Act. So this is regarding National Food Security Act that gives 2/3 of the country's population the right to subsidized food grains. So it guarantees 5 kg of rice, wheat and coarse cereals per month. Coarse cereals per month per person at a highly subsidized rate of rupees 3, 2 and 1 respectively. Even for the Antyodaya households, it guarantees 35 kg of rice per household per month. So this Antyodaya means poorest of the poor. So these are the provisions under National Food Security Act passed in 2013, and states have to implement it. So states now have been given 3 more months to implement Food Security Act. So this is regarding that. Next is Center notifies amended RBI Act to usher in MPC. So now Monetary Policy Committee is already in effect. You must be knowing everything about it by now. It's a 6-member committee, 3 members from RBI, including the governor, who is the ex officio chairman, and other 3 members are from the government. So monetary policy will be decided together by this Monetary Policy Committee. Before this, it was done exclusively by RBI. And another provision which is there under this is that they would decide the monetary policy with the target of controlling inflation. So inflation targeting is highlighted. So inflation should remain in the range. Target is 4% plus minus 2% band is allowed. So that is their obligation. If they are not able to, if the Monetary Policy Committee is not able to assure this, then there are steps which need to be taken. So those provisions are all in place. So this has been put into effect now. So this is June news that it has come closer to setting up this Monetary Policy Committee. Then next we come to judiciary. So this is regarding a plea to ban WhatsApp. So that was not accepted. It was dismissed. But WhatsApp has started end-to-end encryption. So you should know what is end-to-end encryption, because it then results in the data transfer taking place along a private network. So private network is used for communication. Encryption software is used in such a way that even the WhatsApp service providers ideally cannot know Of course, there are backdoor entries, then they can also come to know what conversation has taken place. But on the face of it, yes, end-to-end encryption ideally means that it cannot be tracked by any third person. So even if WhatsApp is demanded by the government to provide what communication has taken place, it will not be able to provide this to governments also. So standard system of is like this. It goes through public network, and then this encryption which is used, end-to-end encryption which is used, makes it so that it cannot be hacked or take, Then the next news item is Madras Bombay High Court to reflect city names. So Madras city became Chennai. Bombay has been renamed Mumbai, but High Court still have the old names. So these old names will now be changed to the new names, means it will be called Chennai High Court, not Madras, and Mumbai High Court, not Bombay. So steps are being taken towards this. It has not been done yet. So Act of Parliament will finalize this. Three presidency courts, these Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta, were the three courts to set up in the year 1861 under this Indian High Courts Act of 1861. So this was done by the British government then. So that is how old our high courts are, the first three presidency high courts. The next is recovery of rupees 29,000 crore rail freight dues stalled. So this is regarding freight evading iron ore exporters. So railways has to recover this 29,000 crore. So there are many iron ore exporters who are not paying the correct freight charges. Freight means for transaction of goods. When goods are being transported, then the charges which are taken. So passenger fees also comes when revenue is collected. Revenue of the government comes from passengers also, the tickets which they sell, and from goods which are transported to. So these iron ore exporters actually have to pay 4 to 5 times more than the steel manufacturers in the country. So because they're exporting, iron ore is going out of the country. So for them, the charges are 4 to 5 times more. But then they are not paying that high freight charges, which is resulting in a loss to the exchequer. So this is the CAG audit report, Comptroller and Auditor General of India, which says that railways can recover this much amount, around 29,000 crore from these exporters. So they are transporting iron ore for export on freight charges meant for domestic consumption movements. Then the next news item is, so these are federalism related news. All major parties in Tripura reject statehood demand. So in Tripura, there is a demand for a separate state called Tripura land, which has been raised by this tribal-based political party, Indigenous Peoples Front of Tripura. So this Tripura land actually is constituting around 1/3 of the state population and 2/3 of the state territory. So this presently a tribal council has been formed in this region under the 6th schedule. So 6th schedule provides for this tribal autonomous district council, Tripura Tribal Autonomous District Council. So they are demanding a separate state now. But this demand was rejected by all major parties in Tripura. The next is Jat calls off quota stop. So a quota agitation which was held by the Jats in Feb 2016, they have called it off. The stay on Jat reservation has been brought in by Punjab and Haryana High Court. So government provided for reservation, but it has been stayed. Then Jayalalitha ups ante on Kachativu. So Kachativu Island was an island disputed between India and Sri Lanka, but it was handed over to Sri Lanka in 1974. So on this, that time, the Tamil Nadu government was under Karunanidhi, DMK government. Now AIA-DMK, Jayalalitha is in power. So here she is demanding that Kachativu Island was taken away from us. So steps need to be taken. She has initiated a case. A case has been filed in Supreme Court in 2008 to retrieve Kachativu. So it's actually an uninhabited island. So we'll see about it. It was administered by Sri Lanka only, a disputed territory. In 1976, this handing over was done. So India recognized Sri Lankan ownership of the island on a conditional agreement. The agreement conditions were that Indian fishermen would be allowed to fish around Kachativu and to dry their nets on the island. Also, the island has the St. Anthony's Catholic Church. So this is also there. Now, the objection raised is that this transfer of land was done without ratification by the Indian Parliament. So in Berubari Union case, Supreme Court has clearly stated that cessation of Indian territory to another country cannot take place without ratification by Parliament. But then territory was held by and administered by Sri Lanka only, though claimed by both. So you can see this is the international boundary. This is the Kachativu Island here. So it's an island which came up due to volcanic eruption. It's uninhabited only. but that's what is important for fishermen, fishing rights. So that aspect was taken care of in the agreement. Regarding Berubari Union case, this is important from polity perspective. So this dispute on Berubari Union came up because of wrong depiction in the map by the Radcliffe Commission. So Radcliffe Award decided the boundary between India and Pakistan. So in this, there was error in the depiction in the maps. So this resulted in this district of Jalpaiguri between India and Pakistan being shown with omission of one thana. So because of this Berubari Union, it was awarded to India. But then the map showed it differently. That's why Pakistan claimed that a part of Berubari Union belongs to it. So then finally 1958 Nehru-Noon agreement came. So half of Berubari Union was to be given to Pakistan under it. So this was done, but parliament was not called for. There was no parliamentary provision brought in. So this was questioned in the case, and in Berubari Union case, the Supreme Court held that Parliament of India is not competent to make a law under Article 3. So under Article 3 means reorganization of states. So within, it's not a reorganization of state, it's handing over of a region to another country. So this requires a proper amendment to the constitution, not just an amendment under Article 3, which is a simple majority bill passed. So a proper amendment needs to be done with special majority. So that was the Berubari Union ruling, and it also ruled another matter, that preamble is not a part of the constitution and hence it cannot be amended. So preamble amendment is not possible. So that was also emphasized in this, and for that it justified saying that it's not a part of the constitution, because under the constitution Article 368 gives right to amend. So right to amend is to entire constitution, but it's kept preamble out of it. The preamble cannot be amended. Of course, this was later changed. Preamble has been amended to as such. So this again later we have seen the Keshavananda Bharati case said that some provisions in the constitution cannot be amended. They are the basic structures of the constitution. So basic structure cannot be amended. So that's how some provisions can be upheld. And parliament is not given unlimited rights to amend. But at this time in 1950s here, the Berubari Union case called preamble as not part of the constitution and hence not amendable. So then finally the parliament passed the Constitutional Amendment Act, 9th Amendment Act 1960, and this was ratified. The next is Centre returns 14 bills passed by Delhi government. So this we have already seen regarding the Jan Lokpal bill too. So these 14 bills, not just Jan Lokpal bill, 14 bills in all have been, which have been passed by Delhi Legislative Assembly in the last 1 year, have been returned by the Ministry of Home Affairs. And it says that since Delhi is a union territory, any bill being introduced in the assembly has to be first cleared by the Ministry of Home Affairs at the center, and then it can be passed by the assembly. So that is why the bills were returned. But then the Delhi government highlights that under this Governance of National Capital Territory of Delhi Act, it says that no bill passed by the Delhi Assembly should be invalid only because prior assent of the Lieutenant Governor of Ministry of Home Affairs has not been taken. So this is clearly there in section 26. So this is not correct. So bills have just been returned because there was no prior assent taken. So this is a conflict between the center and Delhi government. The next is past Panchayati Raj Ministry on verge of closure. So this is regarding the BJP government presently ending various programs. So two important programs of Panchayati Raj Ministry, Backward Regions Grants Fund and Rajiv Gandhi Panchayat Sashaktikaran Abhiyan, have been tucked off. So this you can see a budget cut has been brought in. Even the government has said that Rajiv Gandhi Panchayat Sashaktikaran Abhiyan will be given funding on the condition that it is renamed. So it has been renamed Rashtriya Gram Swaraj Abhiyan now. So it will continue. So this Ministry of Panchayati Raj was created only in 2005, and now in a decade or so, it has seen a drastic reduction in its funding. So 2015 budget cut, you can see it went from 7,000 crore to only 96 crores. So it will have a huge impact on the Ministry of Panchayati Raj. So steps being taken to end its functioning. Next is Pampa Vaipar project may set off another water war. So this is Pampa Achencoil Vaipar River Link project. So this is a project which will provide water to the water deficit Vaipar basin in Tamil Nadu. So the two major rivers of Kerala, Pampa and Achencoil, they would be diverted to provide water here. So it is for irrigation purpose. So this plan has been prepared by National Water Development Agency, which is part of a centrally sponsored project, river interlinking project. So from that perspective, this is very important. You should know which states are involved here from prelims perspective too. So these are the various river interlinking projects in peninsular and the Himalayan component. This is Pampa Achencoil Vaipar. Of course, this is in peninsular India here at the bottom. Then next is Akali's bank on Satluj Yamuna link canal issue. So this is an issue which has a long history. We'll look at it. So a presidential reference was given to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was asked by then President APJ Abdul Kalam to give its viewpoint on this case when it was pending for the last 12 years, and finally now the Supreme Court has given its view on this. It happened post June, but we'll discuss that. So what is this whole issue? You can see the history of the whole thing. So Haryana was formed as a separate state out of Punjab in 1966. So here in 1976, a proposal was put forth to have a Satluj Yamuna link canal so that Haryana is provided water for too. So this came up with an agreement too. So in 1981, the two states mutually agreed that this Satluj Yamuna link canal would be completed in the next 2 years. So you can see this is the boundary of Punjab and Haryana. This is the Satluj river here, you can see, and this is the Yamuna river here. So this Yamuna canal has already been built by Haryana, and this is the Satluj Yamuna link canal. This is the part in Haryana, this is the part in Punjab. So here Haryana has built its own side of the canal. So in 1981, this called for 1 year in which this should be put into effect in 2 years. But then militant attacks took place here, and in 1996, Haryana approached the Supreme Court because Punjab was not completing its canal. And then the Supreme Court in 2002, so you can see the time frame from 1966, 76, the proposal came forth, 81, the agreement, 1996, the case. And then 2002, this case judgment in the Supreme Court that Punjab should complete this canal in 1 year. But then, of course, it was not done. Punjab Assembly, then in 2004, it passed an act which said that it is terminating all its obligations under this 1981 agreement. So that's what Punjab did. And then it was on this 2004 Act of Punjab Assembly that President sought the Supreme Court's opinion. And this Act of 2004, finally, its result has come in 2016. So 2016, before that to the developments you can see. So Punjab Act came in 2004, reference went in 2004 itself by Abdul Kalam, APJ Abdul Kalam to the Supreme Court, and then November 2016 presently, Supreme Court has given its view that Punjab law that terminated SYL agreement of 1981 is unconstitutional. So this is the response of Supreme Court to the presidential reference. So that is there. And in March 2016, even before this proposal or this order of the Supreme Court, Punjab passed another act, Punjab Satluj Yamuna Link Canal Land Transfer of Propriety Rights Bill. Means the land which has been acquired. So a land has already been acquired by Punjab on its site for the canal development, but no work has been initiated. So this land should be returned back. So for that, this bill was passed in 2016, but then Supreme Court ordered a status quo that land should not be returned. Then the next news item is proposal to hire private sector talent in PSU wins approval. So the cabinet has given an ex post facto approval for amending the public sector recruitment rule so that selection of candidates can take place from private sector and state PSUs both. So of course it will be through merit that this recruitment will take place. Then another proposal which has been approved by the government is on a National Optical Fiber Network. So you should know regarding this too. One is on USO fund. So USO fund is Universal Service Obligation Fund. So this has been given statutory status. A fund established in 2002 under the Indian Telegraph Act. So this fund provides viability gap funding for development of rural telecom. So people in rural and remote areas should also have access to telecom services. For that, this fund has been established and is used. Where does the money in this fund come from? It comes from this Universal Access Levy. So this is imposed at 5%, a tax of 5% of adjusted gross revenue of all service providers. So all service providers should pay 5% of the adjusted gross revenue as this universal access levy. So this is credited to Consolidated Fund of India, and then it is used for funding these telecom services in rural and remote areas. Then another provision which is there is National Optical Fiber Network. So this is a project to connect 250,000 Gram Panchayats through optical fiber cable. So this was approved by the cabinet in 2011. So this is to bridge the connectivity gap between Gram Panchayats and the blocks. And it is implemented by an SPV, Special Purpose Vehicle for NOFN, which has been established, and this has been named BBNL, Broadband Network Limited. So it is by center-state joint efforts that funding would also be provided under it. Through USOF, Universal Service Obligation Fund by the center, and even states will contribute towards its implementation. So this is the National Optical Fiber Network. The plan is to have 100 Mbps bandwidth. So Gram Panchayats are at village level and blocks are at intermediate level. So districts are made of number of blocks are made of number of Gram Panchayats. So this is the connectivity gap bridging between Gram Panchayats and blocks. Next is Oil and Gas Roadshow. So this is regarding auctioning of 46 discovered small oil and gas fields. So this auctioning will take place. So these gas fields have been discovered, but they have not been used as such, means oil has not been generated from them yet because of the small size which they are of, and at that time the technology was not there in place to make them feasible, viable. That's why now these are being auctioned to be developed. So that is that these will be sold with lease conditionalities. This has been initiated. This has come in news later as well. And also another is the new policy which government has announced, HELP. So this is important from prelims as well as means perspective. So we had this new exploration licensing policy going on. So various phases of this. Now we have HELP, Hydrocarbon Exploration and Licensing Policy, which is an improvement over NELP. So oil and gas is very important for us because we have 78% of our demands satisfied through imports. So work in this field is extremely important for the country. It will save a huge foreign exchange resource for us too. So this is regarding new exploration licensing policy. So since this, under this NELP, since 1958, this has been initiated and many NELP rounds have taken place. The difference between this hydrocarbon exploration licensing policy and the old NELP is basically that this is revenue sharing and NELP was profit sharing. What is the difference is that exploration license is provided. So exploration license is provided by the government. So here profit, once it becomes profitable, the profit would be shared. So profit sharing with the government would take place. And here in HELP, it is the revenue sharing which takes place. Means the revenue which is generated, not just the profit, but the entire revenue is shared. So it takes on the risks as well. So that is the idea in revenue sharing. So revenue comes to the government on production. So once production starts, revenue starts coming to the government as well. Revenue is shared between the two. But in profit sharing, profit is shared only after cost of recovery of the cost. So this is the specific part majorly in the two policies. Then the next news item is curbs on NGOs come in for flack. So this we have already been seeing quite often now regarding NGOs, regarding Compassion International too. So that is there. Then next is Centre's draft forest policy moots green cess. So Environment Ministry has proposed a new policy for management of forests, and under this now, this is draft National Forest Policy 2016. This has not been finalized yet. So here now wood use has been promoted. In the earlier policies, wood use for as such was banned, but now it says that there should be sustainably managed forests and trees, and wood use should be promoted on a basis that it is sustainable. So that is there. So it says wood has significantly lower carbon footprints than many of the substitutes like fossil fuels, etc. So that is the justification which it is giving. Also, it emphasizes that the government must double tree cover outside forests within a decade. So within forest cover should be increased as one aspect, and tree cover being increased is another. So outside the forest, tree cover outside the forest is emphasized on. So that is this. So India has already set up this target that 1/3 of its geographical area should come under forest and tree cover. So forest cover should be 1/3. Presently it is 1/4. So from 23% approximately, it has to go up to 33.33%. So that's the target. So now that target has come, forest and tree cover. So that is, they're both included. Then another emphasis is on replenishing these lands with native species. That land which is brought under forest cover should have native species rather than exotic species, means imported species outside the region. Means imported means outside the region, which are natural in those regions should be sown and grown in those regions. And then another aspect which is there is the controversial decision of the Union Ministry here to declare animals as vermin. So animals like nilgai, wild pigs, monkeys, they have been declared vermins, and they have been, vermins means those who affect the farms as such. So those are called vermin. So once declared vermins, then there is an implicit sanction that slaughter of these animals can also take place. So that has been challenged, and that has been criticized even by a minister here. The Ministry of Women and Child Development, Maneka Gandhi, has strongly clamped down on this decision of the government. The next is the country's first national civil aviation policy has been proposed. So under this, air connectivity has to be increased. So there is this 5/20 rule which is in place. So this has been in place since 2004. Means new airlines can start flying abroad only if they have completed 5 years of flying on domestic destinations, and they are operating at least 20 aircraft. So that is 5 and 20, 5 years and 20 aircraft. So now this rule has been changed under this national civil aviation policy, and it says what it has brought in is called 0/20 rule. Means you don't have to wait for 5 years. As soon as you are having at least 20 planes in operation, or 20% of their total flying capacity in operation, whichever is higher on domestic routes, you can start flying abroad. So new startups are there like Vistara, AirAsia. So they will no longer have to wait 5 years before starting international route. So this has been justified for increasing air connectivity. Also another thing is highlighted is on open sky policy. So open sky policy we have with many European countries, even SAARC countries. So this means that countries can have unlimited access in terms of number of flights and seats to Indian airports. So this will result in increased flying frequency with the countries. So this is there only for countries beyond 5,000 kilometer radius from Delhi. And it will be on a reciprocal basis. Means if you are giving us open sky, then we'll also allow open sky to you. Means no limits. Any number of flights can come in. So not for the close neighbors beyond 5,000 kilometers. Then another provision which is there. So apart from 0/20 rule now, open sky policy been endorsed, and regional connectivity scheme. So regional connectivity scheme is there, which is making it flying feasible for the citizens of the country. So passengers here will be charged only rupees 2,500 for an hour's flight. So that is the cap which has been brought in. So this to increase usage of airlines as such. So here what it says is the remaining amount of course would be subsidized. So 80% of this subsidy will come from levy which will be imposed, and 20% should come from the states. So what levy would be imposed is actually a small levy per departure. Means on all domestic routes except in remote and northeastern states. So there whatever money comes in will be used to fund airlines to serve these unserved routes. So this has also been proposed. And then another provision is there for route dispersal guidelines. So this is that domestic airlines will have to provide more flights to northeastern Jammu and Kashmir, Andaman Nicobar, Lakshadweep regions. So airlines will are mandated now to fly 10% of their total flying capacity of their capacity which they deploy on metro routes to these regions. So this is route dispersal guideline also in place. So that is also there. Another is regarding building infrastructure. So airport revival will also take place. Viability gap funding would be provided by the government. So viability gap funding is a term which is used for various projects which are just not picking up or just not being completed because of the viability gap. So there's a little gap remaining. If that is filled, the project becomes viable, means functional. So that viability gap funding will be provided here. Then government is not planning to auction international air traffic rights. That has also been clarified that it will be allocated, not auction. So this is regarding 5/20 replaced by 0/20. This is regarding regional connectivity scheme. Also, no frills airports have been proposed. So this is small levy which will be imposed. So that is this levy of 2% proposed. The next is DGCA to get more punitive powers. So Directorate General of Civil Aviation, it has powers to suspend the operations of airlines or airports or even take away their licenses. So this power is there with DGCA, but no power to impose fines or penalties has been given to it. So there is a proposal to amend the Aircraft Act of 1937 so that DGCA can even fine airlines. So fine airlines on commercial matters. So matters between, not on commercial matters actually. So not on commercial matters means not with respect to like if there's a consumer dispute or so. So that it says a matter between consumer airlines. Fining here which DGCA is wanting for itself is on aspects like if there are norms which have to be followed. So like, you know, minimum crew should be there. Valid pilot license should be there. Flight records have to be maintained. There should be logbooks clearly filled. So if there are any fraud entries or any of these violated examples given, then fines can be imposed. So that power is being sought by DGCA now. Then next is Cabinet approves mega spectrum auction. So this spectrum auction has already taken place. We already have seen later in news that this has not resulted in what the government was expecting. So it was a dull performance here because it was highly routed. The first time that 700 megahertz, this is high speed broadband services, this was put on auction, but then operators here, you can see in June also it was there that they had said that this sale has to be held back because device ecosystem is not in place yet. The cost of delivering mobile services in the 700 megahertz band is cheaper, but then the ecosystem is not there in place. So that's why they were demanding that this be held back, but it was not, and it was put on auction. There was not a single taker. So this you can see it is cheaper than 2100 megahertz band used for 3G services presently. But the device ecosystem is not there. So what's the use of auctioning it right now? When the ecosystem means people are not ready, devices are not there in place, then who will use it that way? Then another one was 1800 megahertz spectrum, which is used for voice services. This was also put on auction. A spectrum usage charges was proposed. This will be annual fee payable by telecom operators for using airwaves. So this was there. So auctioning of around 2000 megahertz of airwaves was put up. So this were the two bands. So companies winning spectrum above 1 gigahertz, it was said, will need to pay 50% of the amount upfront, and balance for others also. Balance will have to be paid in 10 years after 2-year moratorium. Then next is Ministry can approve rupees 500 crore of non-planning spending. So non-plan project expenditure threshold has been increased actually, that you do not have to take permission from the ministries. The ministries themselves can approve the spending. So non-plan expenditure spending up to 500 crores can be approved by ministries themselves. Then finance ministry's nod is required from 500 crore to 1000 crore. And beyond that, cabinet approval is required. So plan, non-plan distinction is still there, though it is formally said to be abolished. So this was the provision made. The next is cinema malls may soon be open 24/7. So this is a new model law which has been brought in. So if this is accepted by the states, it has been sent to all states. If it is accepted, then this can take place, that malls, cinema halls, restaurants, shops, banks, etc. can be open round the clock for 365 days in the year for 24/7. So barring factories, factories will not be included under this. So they are covered under Factories Act. So those will not be here. So e-companies, also e-commerce companies can also be brought under labor law rule books. That will be made provision for. So that is there. Because implementation depends on states, because this is state domain. The next is over 23% hike likely for government employees pensioners. So this is on implementation of 7th Pay Commission's recommendations. So this will result in salaries and pensions of around 1 crore government employees and pensioners increasing. So there will be a 16% increase in pay, 24% increase in pensions. So overall it will come 23.55% increase. So last was in 6th Pay Commission recommendations accepted in 2008. So this resulted in an increase of more than 20%. Actually 20% recommended by 6th Pay Commission, but UPA government then doubled this, and increase of 40% actually was brought in. And under this, another is regarding the maximum pay. So maximum pay for cabinet secretary, the topmost official at government level, is 2.5 lakh per month. And compression ratio. So compression ratio is the ratio at entry level. So direct recruitment of lowest level entrant and a class 1 officer. So that is, the class 1 officer will get 3 times more than the lowest level entrant. So that is the ratio, 1:3.12. So this is called compression ratio. So this has to be minimized. So this is regarding the implementation of the recommendations. Then next is not for new pay matrix. So Union Cabinet has said that it will not use this present system of pay bands and grade pays, and a new pay matrix which has been recommended by the 7th Pay Commission will be implemented. Then next is, the government employees are demanding a minimum salary of 26,000. So minimum salary which has been proposed under the 7th Pay Commission is 18,000. But then employees are demanding that at least 26,000 should be the minimum salary for government employees. Then finally, the last news item, anti-harassment cells at workplaces still on paper. So this is a provision under this Act, Sexual Harassment of Women Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act of 2013. So under this act, it is mandatory for all establishments that employ 10 or more employees to establish internal complaint mechanism. So this is internal complaints committee should be established to address all sexual harassment related cases in workplaces. But then it is said that many have not set up these internal complaints committees. So if it is not implemented, then there is a fine up to rupees 50,000 too. And it is applicable for all, for public as well as private sector, organized as well as unorganized sector. And these internal complaints committee have the power of civil courts for gathering evidence too. So this has to be implemented. Even till before this, it was the Vishakha guidelines of Supreme Court for prevention of sexual harassment in workplaces, which was in effect. Now finally a law has come. So Supreme Court makes these provisions too, where law is not in place. So Vishakha guidelines has already been a question in UPSC in prelims asked on what is Vishakha guidelines about of the Supreme Court. So this is there. So now this legislation of 2013, it defines workplace and makes provisions, mandates setting up of internal complaints committee. So these are the news items in this video. In the next video, part 2 for June 2016, we'll cover economy, environment, science and tech, and bilateral international affairs. Okay, thank you.